Okay, so we have Jenna with us. She is our new volunteer manager. And Jenna she started with the ALS Association in April. And we are very fortunate to have her. She came to us with a lot of experience. Jenna has her master's in human development and her volunteer leadership certificate. And she comes with a long history of volunteer coordination from the Children's Hospital. So we are just so fortunate to have her, and she has hit the ground running, and she's been a great addition to our team. For those of you that have not had a chance to talk to her, she is going to just be kind of updating us on the Family Assistance Program, which is our volunteer program here, but that is finally, after COVID, starting to get moving again. So I'm going to let Jenna say a little bit about herself, and she can take it from there.
Thanks, Corey. That was such a nice introduction. Thank you. And thanks everyone for coming. It's just fun. I was saying it's fun to see people over video. I've been doing a lot of emails and phone calls, and so it's fun to get together in this format too. And yeah, I was going to say, over the 4th, we went to Valley Fair. It's an annual tradition with my husband's side of the family. So we went to Valley Fair and got wet, and it was a good weekend for that too. So yeah, I will just chat a little bit about family assistance. I can talk a little. I have a couple slides, and then our website has been updated recently, so I can walk you through that a little bit. So I will just share my screen with a couple of the slides that I have. Let me see here. I'll go to this one. Can you see that okay? I go to present.
Yep, I can see it.
It's showing up? Okay. Yep. So for anyone who's not familiar with the Family Assistance Program, it is, as Corey said, a volunteer program designed to help families with daily tasks, especially a lot of those things around the house that need to get done, kind of have to get done, but are easy to fall through the cracks or fall off your radar when you have bigger things on your mind. There's a lot to juggle, and life gets busy. And so this program was created to try to help make life a little easier and try to lighten the load along the way. And I'm still learning a lot about it, but it's such a neat program. And I think that it's really, intended to come alongside you and try to give a little boost of help where we can. And so the scope is very broad in terms of what people need. So we get requests for outdoor tasks like mowing, weeding, watering plants. If you have outdoor kinds of tasks that you need to do, that's a component. Things like running errands. So we have volunteers who could, if you place an order at Target and you want a volunteer to do the drive up and pick up your groceries and come back, that's something that could happen to running those errands. Cleaning is something that comes in pretty often, and I know we're still finessing some of that outdoor versus indoor. We're fully open for both. I think everyone has different comfort levels. So if you want to volunteer inside, that's something we can talk about. If outside is better for you, that's totally fine as well. So things like vacuuming or dusting or laundry. And then some people will also just request companionship, having a volunteer come over to spend time or play a game. So it can be household tasks, or it can be more just company, if that's something that would be appealing to you as well. And the volunteers' frequency can vary. So it kind of depends on your needs. And then it also depends on the volunteers' availability. So some people will have a one-time request to like come wash windows one time, or do like walk a dog weekly at this time. I would say weekly is probably the most a volunteer could come. So just because they're often working and have families. And so sometimes I'll get requests for people who say, can someone do this every day or 2 or 3 times a week? And so just kind of setting those expectations that realistically, once a week would probably be the most often they could come. That's not to say we couldn't have more than one volunteer. So if you really wanted someone twice a week, I would probably look to find 2 volunteers who could do that, as opposed to having 1 volunteer come twice, if that makes sense. So those are just kind of some overall things. And then we kind of have volunteers, and you just come in knowing there's a scope of what volunteers can and can't do. So a few of the things that you'll see that volunteers can't do are any personal care. So grooming, that could be brushing hair, helping with bathing, feeding, toileting. That will be more of that caregiver type of role as opposed to a volunteer role. Any type of medical care with any medical equipment, just for your safety and the volunteers' safety. And then childcare. So if you have kids, they can certainly be present while the volunteer's there, but we would ask that an adult also be home at that time, so the volunteer isn't providing that childcare. And just in terms of the process, I can show the website in a little bit, but this is my email. It's just jenna@alsmn.org. So you can send a request to me. I look for a match among our current volunteers. So we have 30 plus volunteers right now who are trained kind of across our service area. And so I am actively looking to recruit more. I had an interview earlier today. I have one tomorrow. So trying to get more volunteers in. And then if we don't have someone in our current crew, I am looking to find people. And so Andre can attest. Andre has been very patient with me. He submitted a request in May, and I have been striking out and finding a volunteer for Andre. And so I appreciate your patience, Andre, and your good nature on that, because it's a little bit of a dance where, if you are in Edina, for example, I look, who do I have in Edina? Who wants to do weeding? Who's available at this time? And so sometimes the funnel narrows down a little bit. And so I know if it were up to me, I would snap my fingers and a volunteer would appear, but that's not exactly how it works. I wish it was. So just to know that I will do my best, but it can take a little time just to get someone up and running, especially if there's not anybody in the current pool. So, if you're, again, in Mankato, I don't have any volunteers in Mankato right now, so I would have to find them, have them apply, do their background check and orientation, and it just all takes a little time. So just wanted to let you know a little about that process and how it works. And Andre, I'm still working on it. I'm plugging away on that, but thank you for, it's one of those things where some things are easier to match and some things are just more challenging. And so I want you to know that you can always ask, and I will do my best. And we'll just kind of see who we have out there. So that is a little bit about that process. I can stop sharing that part here. Let's see. If I can. Oh, there we go. Stop sharing. Any questions about that piece of it, kind of the general overview, anything that you're wondering about or doesn't make sense?
Well, in my case, it's my reputation precedes me, and people don't want to touch me at 10-foot pole.
Andre, it's one of those things where they like pride goes before a fall. Because for me, talk to Andre, I'm like, he's in the Twin Cities. How hard could this be? I was feeling pretty confident, and then just for whatever reason,
No, it's fine.
So I think it's not you, it's me, Andre. That's what I would say.
It's no problem. I'll keep waiting patiently. No problem at all.
Thank you. Yeah. So, but it is one of those things where I think sometimes it can be quick and sometimes it takes longer. Kind of like anything, you just will persist and see what we got. Yeah. Any other questions at this point? Otherwise, I can. I kind of wanted to show our website, so I can pull that up because our website just got updated. So we have, Let's see, I'll go to my right page here. See if I can find it here. Well, what the heck? Do. Aha, there it is. So is this showing up as the family assistance program on the website? Okay, so if you're trying to navigate on the website, you can find it in that local care services family over here. So kind of in the same section that you'd find support groups and respite. One thing to know, and we have these on the website, is with COVID, we have an additional waiver for families to sign and then for volunteers to sign. And so I can show those. These are just kind of a simple Google form. That font is probably pretty small to read, but I can summarize. What we're doing right now is we're asking volunteers to wear a mask when they're inside or within 6 feet of others. So we're not requiring masks for volunteers doing outdoor tasks. We do still encourage that, but if they're mowing your lawn and you're inside, they wouldn't need to wear a mask in that situation. We are also asking that any volunteer going inside a home be fully vaccinated. So they would be fully vaccinated and also wear a mask, just to really be super cautious and super safe for your safety. We encourage families to, if you are able to mask or whatever works best for you. It's not a requirement for families. We don't have guidelines on that, but just so you know, we're asking volunteers to get that vaccine and then to wear masks as well, just for your protection. We do have a little wellness screening too. You'll see the list of symptoms. So we're asking volunteers to really be mindful if they have any unwell symptoms, to not come visit, or if they travel outside the US to wait. Again, I think our goal was to really err on the side of being super cautious and not taking any unnecessary chances. There's always some level of risk involved in interaction with somebody else. So we're just asking everyone to be responsible and act in good faith. So this would be something if you wanted to have a volunteer, we'd have you just enter your name and or your caregiver's name on the bottom of that form, just saying, okay, I recognize what volunteers are asked to do. I understand the risk in that, just in having a volunteer visit. And then volunteers have a similar form. It's a little more policy statement wise. So just reminding volunteers of that for being vaccinated and being masked indoors. And so volunteers are asked to sign off saying, if they haven't been vaccinated, they would volunteer for outside activities only. So they could come and water your plants, they could come and mow your lawn, but they wouldn't come inside your home if they hadn't been vaccinated, if that makes sense.
So just a question in terms of procedure. If we have requested volunteers, should we just sign this to kind of have it on file?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, thank you, Andre. I think you and I probably maybe before this was created or in process. So yes, so if you, that's a great question. I would say if you think you would want to have a volunteer at some point, you can just fill it out, then we'd have it. I can always send it later too, but I think if you think that's something you would want at any point, you can just find it on the website here. And then once you fill it out, I will see that you signed it and I can make a note. So yes, that's a great question.
Okay.
And then just on the website, there's a little bit of a list again of the kinds of tasks that volunteers can help with. I wanted to quickly touch on, I mentioned some of the indoor and outdoor tasks. We do have some volunteers who help with technology. So if you have a tech need, if you're like, gosh, I'd love a volunteer to help set up my iPad or help with my computer or something, that's something you can certainly ask about. And then I'm not sure if folks are familiar with the Care Connections, but if you wanted to have a volunteer help sort of set up a calendar for you or set up that kind of resource so that you could plug in other people to come help or sort of manage a schedule, that's something a volunteer could do as well. So I would say the possibilities are endless. There's a lot of different ways a volunteer could help. So definitely feel free to ask. And if it's possible, we'll do our best to make it happen. We talked about some of those guidelines just in terms of medical care or personal care. If the person with ALS can't be home alone, we do ask the caregiver to be present. This is my information, just so you know how to get in touch with me. And we talked a little about the procedure. So just looking in the current pool, what we would do usually is we would tell the volunteer a little bit about you, kind of who you are and your needs. And then I would tell you about the volunteer as well. So I would say, I have a college student who is willing to come and walk your dog on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock. How does that sound to you? So both sides kind of have a chance to know about the other person and know about kind of their schedule or what they're looking for. And then if you both think it sounds like a good match, at that point, I would share your contact information. So if you say, yes, I'd like to have them come and the volunteer is game, I would share your emails and your phone numbers. And then from there, you can communicate directly with that volunteer. So I am kind of the matchmaker on the front end, getting you connected. And then once we have that match, then you and your volunteer can work together to figure out what works best, to decide on scheduling. You can communicate with them if you can't do a certain night or you need to change plans and vice versa, then you can just do that and kind of cut out the middleman, and I don't have to mess it up being midstream there. So you'll have their information. A lot of the volunteers are coming to us because they have some kind of personal connection, whether it was a family member or a friend with ALS. There are some volunteers who don't have a connection, but I would say in my experience so far, there's usually someone they know that really made them want to help because they know the impact and they know the challenges that are involved with the diagnosis of ALS. And so I've been really impressed so far with the group that we have, and I'm excited to keep bringing more volunteers in, but I can just confidently say it's a good group, really kind people, and really, just very compassionate and willing to help. I think I mentioned this, but sorry, Andre, go ahead.
Question in terms of the scheduling. So if a volunteer comes out and we schedule something on a regular basis, should we inform you too, so you know what volunteers you have available to deploy?
That's a good question. So usually, once I connect you, you don't have to let me know your schedule. My protocol is, so I'll connect you, and then this is kind of here, but 2 weeks later, I'll do kind of a first check-in to say, how's it going? Were you able to meet? And then every month I'm connecting with both you and the volunteer to see how it's going. So I don't have to know like the times and dates you're meeting. I just sort of big picture will check in how it's going. If you have questions, does that answer your question, Andre? Is that okay? And I would say too, if you have one volunteer and you're like, I would love a second one, you can let me know. Or if you have a volunteer and you're like, I want to change the schedule or I don't need them, you could tell the volunteer that too. And yes, I will be looped in some way, shape, or form. So thanks for checking on that. And then just quickly, this is volunteers have to fill out an application form online. And then I do an interview with them just to kind of learn more about them, check references, do a background check, and they do an orientation where they learn more about ALS and our chapter. If they aren't coming in with a knowledge of that, we make sure that they have a general knowledge base. And then just check in with them, check in with you, make sure it feels like it's a mutually beneficial experience for everyone. And certainly I'm available anytime if you have questions, if things are going well, if things aren't going well, I'm happy to talk through things anytime. So just wanted to make sure you know where that was on the website if you want to find that waiver or get in touch with me. Any questions on that piece? I'll stop sharing the website right now. There we go. But that kind of threw a lot at you. Anything that you're wondering about after that part? Hi.
Jenna, I just have a quick question. So I am a little bit new to this program too, because it's been on hold since I started. But so if somebody's interested, I know I've been getting some requests from the clinic visits and clinic follow-ups. But the people requesting a volunteer don't have like an application or anything that they need to fill out. They just would contact you.
That's a good question. So my understanding is there used to be an interest form like previously. I think now we're just having them email me.
Okay.
If the family emails me or if you talk to a coordinator and they email me, it's a little more informal now is my understanding, is that there's not a formal application or form. It's just usually for me, if someone says, hey, I want to volunteer to help, usually at that point I would circle back and say, yeah, let's flesh out some of the details here. How often, what are the tasks? Any specifications on, male versus female or in your geographic area or that kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's just once I get it, then I can follow up with more details, but there's not a set form. That's a good question.
Okay, great. Is everybody familiar with what the Care Connection calendar is that Jenna mentioned? No, maybe we should go over that a little bit, Jenna, if you want to explain that, because I think that's an awesome resource too, especially.
Yeah, and I
get people signed up.
find that. I'll see if I can find. Is there? Let me look. I'll pull it up on because I'm on the page there. Let's see here. I'll share this again. So the Care Connection. Is that showing up okay?
Yep.
Okay. See if I can scroll down here. It's being a little funky for me. There we go. So again, this is kind of an alternate way where if it were up to me, we would always say we could guarantee a volunteer every time you ask. And but sometimes it's good to pull in other resources that you have. So if you have friends or neighbors or family members or just others that socially that want to help or are asking how they can help, the Care Connection is essentially an online calendar to coordinate some of that. So, and Corey, feel free to jump in anytime too if I need to give more detail, but it's this online calendar that you can organize volunteers to help take care of some tasks. And so if I'm not able to find a volunteer, immediately for walking a dog, you could set up this calendar to say, I really want my dog walked on these days at this time, and then see if you can plug in a neighbor or a friend or a family member just to sort of organize some of that. So this can be a way, I think, that's sustainable long-term as well, where sometimes with volunteers, a volunteer can start and then their schedule may change or your needs may change. And so this is something that you can have at your disposal to see, okay, who else can I plug in? There's resources through the chapter, there's these volunteers, but can I call upon my current community, my current social network? So on the website, it does have this little guide, and I can show, this is what the website looks like. So you can coordinate meals, you can coordinate household tasks, and you can sort of manage that care team that way. So if you have a couple neighbors who said, how can we help? If you have extended family, again, it's just a way to coordinate some of that.
Yeah, and if I understand correctly too, they can all see, so say one of the requests is to mow the lawn. They're able to access this calendar too and be like, oh, nobody signed up to do it this week. I'm going to pop my name in there, or, you know, oh, it looks like they're getting a lot of meals this week. Maybe I should wait a little bit and I'll send out a meal in a couple of weeks or whatever. But yeah, just kind of a nice way too for, I mean, I think that's kind of the number one question a lot of times is people are just like, what can we do to help? And this kind of allows you to decide on what things could help. And then allowing people to sign up as they're willing or able to do it. So,
Mhm.
so that's a really nice piece too. And there are instructions on how to do it, but I know that that's something too that Jenna or one of the coordinators can help you guys with too. If it's something.
Yeah, I do have one volunteer kind of on my roster right now who is interested in helping families set this up. So if you are interested, I do have a volunteer that I may be able to connect with you to do some of that legwork in terms of setting it up and just plugging things in. I have one person right now who could help walk through some of these steps. So you could do it together, you could have her do it. So that's something that is available. She lives in West St. Paul, I believe. So, but she is someone who has offered to help. And yeah, so if that piece is like, I don't want to mess with the setup, that is something that we can partner with you on. Trying to see if there's anything else on
Oh,
that.
that at all. Any other questions? I was curious, Jenna, what are some of the requests that you have gotten so far? I know I sent you a couple, but I was just curious, what are some of the other things that people have been asking for help with?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I've gotten the whole gamut. So I've gotten dog walking, I've gotten several sort of housekeeping, cleaning, laundry. I have a volunteer right now who is kind of an errand runner. So the family will order, you know, whether it's from Target or Walmart or the kind of the curbside pickup. And so she'll go, you know, they'll order stuff and then she'll be the delivery girl to go get their groceries or their errands for that week, which I think is cool. I have a few that are garden related. So watering plants, weeding. I think I have one volunteer doing a little bit of kind of landscaping, like putting down some mulch and things like that. I would say probably the two most frequent I've gotten so far are yard care in some way, shape, or form and cleaning. Those are probably the top two. And
Okay.
I think that I'm still, just sort of working through the best way to find volunteers for that. I think in the summer, it's a little easier to find the outdoor people. And I think people are still feeling out their comfort level with going inside. And so I think those have been a little trickier so far. And it's funny too, because with cleaning and laundry, I sometimes laugh where I'm like, that's hard to do even for yourself sometimes, or I'm like, oh, I have to do my laundry. And then to do, to go and do laundry as a volunteer is maybe a bigger ask, or to clean a bathroom or things like that. So I'm trying to find the right way to connect people to those requests.
Right.
But those have been, kind of a sample so far. I think those have been the main themes.
Okay. So when the errand running, then when she goes and gets those groceries or whatever, does she go into the home and put them away then too? Or is she leaving them like on the step or?
That's a good question. So this volunteer is fully vaccinated. And so I think the family, they've arranged that she does come in and help put away. But I have another person I interviewed who isn't vaccinated and doesn't plan to be. And so she would be someone who, if she ran errands, she could leave on the step or leave at the door. So she wouldn't come in the home, but she could still be a person who could pick up things, who could deliver things. So it can kind of go either way, depending on your needs and sort of their status. If they are comfortable coming inside, they could do that. But it's kind of slick now with all those, with Target and different stores, that you can order what you want, you can pay for it, and then someone could come and pick it up. That's kind of a nice way to complete the loop, I think.
Oh, good. And where have most, are you finding it easier to find volunteers? Obviously, well, maybe not with Andre still looking, but are you finding it easier to find volunteers in the Twin Cities, or are we doing pretty good throughout our whole service area?
Good question. Yeah, I would say most of my volunteers are from the Twin Cities area. And so I think we could definitely benefit from more in kind of the outstate areas and North Dakota, South Dakota. I think we're pretty concentrated on the Twin Cities metro. I'm curious to try to look more at Rochester, because I know Corey's been great about sending requests from Mayo, and I think that's going to be a steady stream likely. And so I've been interviewing some folks from Rochester. I think that's an area that will probably continue to grow, and try to get more volunteers there in anticipation of more requests there. But yeah, it's an interesting part of the program that you don't always know where the requests are coming from, where if you get a request for International Falls, it's like, okay, we need to find a volunteer now at International Falls. And so it's a good challenge to try to, yeah, connect people and mobilize different resources. So yeah, that's on my radar for sure. I think that's comes with the territory with working with volunteers. You can probably always use more. And so we'll just keep trying to get more people in the door. And it's been interesting so far too, because volunteers have different preferences on, like with Andre's request, I have people who are like, I would usually do this, but it doesn't work right now for this reason. And so, yeah, it's just trying to find the alignment of timing and location and making that all come together.
Sure. So, and then I saw that you were posting you said on volunteer finding pages or websites or whatnot.
Yeah. So the main use
does
is
that cover our whole tri-state area, or?
Yeah. So on Volunteer Match, it shows you're posting within about 20 miles of where the location is. And so,
Okay.
If I posted a request for Fargo, it would show in a 20-mile radius of Fargo. I've mostly been using Volunteer Match, which is just, kind of a main recruitment site, but there are other resources, I think, just looking at, the Rotary or Lions clubs or different things to say, how can we get the word out that we're looking for volunteers in this area? And that's, again, a good thing I'll continue to work on is trying to get just more people power to do some of that.
Cool. Anybody else have any questions for Jenna while we have her?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk more anytime one-on-one if you want to call or email. And yeah, I just thank you all in advance for your patience. It can be a process. So thank you especially you, Andre, who's been waiting on me. So thank you.